Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
With Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. We start our show with an absolute barn burner last night in Raleigh. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final between Vegas and Carolina. They brought the cup out, which is a new tradition. More on that in a bit. The game was bonkers. 25 seconds in, Nikolai Ehlers scores before he even turned the television on. It's 1-0 Hurricanes. Remember, Carolina only lost one game for the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Later in the period, Ehlers gets in alone. Backhander. It's going to be a rout. It's 2-0 Carolina. But Vegas answers. This goal from Shea Theodore on a deflection in front gets the Golden Knights back in the game. Now it's 2-1. Go to the second period. Again, just after everybody sits down, 30 seconds in, Ivan Barbashev scores. What a beautiful shot. Upper 90. The game tied at 2. And here come the Golden Knights still. William Karlsson, who's just back from injury, out in front. Nobody's there. It's 3-2 in favor of the Golden Knights. That's a tremendous pass from Mitch Marner, who they acquired from Toronto before the season. The Hurricanes would respond. This is like an old NHL 94 game. Jordan Stahl, whose older brother won a Stanley Cup with Matt Cullen on this team in 2006. We're knotted up at 3. We go to the third period. Brett Howden, who scored a game winner in overtime, get the Golden Knights even into this round on a beautiful deflection. Golden Knights back in front 4-3. Carolina had a chance here. This is a controversial play. They call icing on this, even though it was just inside the red line. Vegas not thrilled about that. That means a face-off is coming, and the other end, you can see the Golden Knights' frustration on that. So a face-off is coming in their own end. The puck squirts loose. Shane Gostisbehere, the pride of Union College in Schenectady, New York, ties the game at 4. Raleigh going crazy after the controversial icing call. But the Golden Knights would have the last laugh. Tomas Hertl will get loose in the slot. He scores. It's 5-4 Vegas with 3.5 minutes to go on a fantastic feed out in front. The Golden Knights have a 5-4 advantage. Carolina, of course, has to pull Freddie Anderson, their goaltender. Gostisbehere got loose again. This time, Carter Hart, who did not have his best game in net, makes a save. That was probably Carolina's best chance. They got another one here with about 3 seconds to go. That one went wide. And Las Vegas goes into Raleigh and beats the Carolina Hurricanes 5-4 the final in Game 1. Meanwhile, Vegas has now won 7 consecutive postseason games here. They won the last 2 games against the Ducks. After that series was tied at 2, they swept Colorado, and now they become the first team in the history of the National Hockey League to rally from a 2-goal deficit in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. It's an uber-specific stat, but it's a pretty good one. Vegas down 2-0. They come back and win it 5-4. So they go up 1-0. Game 2 coming up tomorrow night. You'll see that on WDAY. We'll see how Carolina will respond. That's only the second time that the Hurricanes have lost in these Stanley Cup playoffs. And with that, we say good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hot Mic on a Hump Day Wednesday. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program on this 3rd day of June, 2026. Glad you're starting your morning with us. That was fantastic. If that's what we got set for who knows how many games will go, 5, 6, 7, maybe it's 4. I doubt it's going to be a sweep. But sign me up for that. That was end-to-end, back and forth, really good hockey. I think even the average sports fans who don't really watch hockey outside of maybe this time of year when you get an occasional game on because it's on network television, they stumble on it, like, all right, well, I'll watch this. And they got their just desserts on that because that was a fabulous game. And we'll see what happens now with game number 2, as I mentioned, coming up on Thursday. We got game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight. You'll see that also on WDAY. I think our news staff was thrilled by the way that goal from Vegas happened when it did, because we were about this close to having overtime, which means, clean the ice and all that. We're not going to be on till at least, 10:25 at the earliest. Then goal happens. ABC's done it 9:58. News starts on time. Let's go. So everything worked out easy peasy last night. We'll see what happens. We'll talk more on the NBA Finals coming up later on between the Knicks and the Spurs with Game 1 tonight here on Channel 6. If you weren't watching the hockey game, maybe you had the Twins on last night. Minnesota has quietly got back home and started playing better baseball after 5 straight losses to end their road trip. Suddenly, they flipped the script back home. After the White Sox took 3 of 4, they have now won the series against Chicago because last night Connor Prelip was pretty darn solid, and the Twins knocked off Chicago for the second straight night. Didn't start great. White Sox already up 1-0 in the third when Miguel Vargas will single down the left field line. That'll bring in 2 Chicago base runners. White Sox jump on Prelip and get a 3-0 lead through 2.5. Twins answer to make it 3-1. Luke Keeschall bats here in the bottom of the 4th. Delivers into the gap in left center. That will score Trevor Larnach. Makes it a 3-2 score in the 4th inning. Tristan Gray, we showed you yesterday, hit a bomb for a grand slam. His second already of the season. He keeps hitting. He was this close to quitting baseball, apparently. Opposite field hit. That scores 2. Twins go in front now, 4-3 in the 4th inning. Alex Jackson, somebody called Alex Jackson, got a base hit to drive in a run to make it 5-3. Keeschall delivers again in the 5th. Hits the backup catcher, by the way, since Jeffers is hurt. Josh Bell gets in there, makes it a 6-3 Minnesota lead. The nimble Bell getting in there before the throw, or the throw at least getting him on the side into home to make it a 6-3 Minnesota lead. Their bullpen would knock down the White Sox in the final 3 innings, and the Twins break them up. They've won 2 in a row. 6-4 final score. Connor Prelip, 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, and 7 strikeouts. He pitched into the 7th for the first time in his pro career. Twins may have found something here with this left-hander that, again, trying to think of the last homegrown left-handed guy. Corey Provis brought this up a few weeks ago when we were talking about Prelip, and it's been a bit. They've brought in, signed other left-handed pitchers, but to develop a starter that's a left-hander, you got to go back a ways on that. And they beat Davis Martin, by the way, who had been one of the best starters in the American League. He came in at 8-1 on the year, drops to 8-2 on the season. We got a matinee today to wrap up at Target Field. Nothing wrong, especially on a June day when you're looking for content and you're doing a sportscast and you got a matinee at 1 o'clock. That's A-OK on that. Twins then will welcome in the Royals to start a 4-game set at Target Field on Thursday night. So, you know what? You put together a couple of nice wins. I don't know if it takes away the pain of what happened on the road trip, but they're hamming it and egging it together right now, knowing full well they've got as many guys out with injury, whether it be obviously Jeffers is down, the amount of starters that are with Ober out. It's not great. I mean, they're down to 4 starters right now. They're picking up guys off the scrap heap left and right to try and fill some holes right now. It's where you're at with this Twins franchise. So we'll see what happens with their game coming up later this afternoon. Two quick things before we set up the show. We got a busy one today. A lot going on. Last week, we told you on the television schedule for Bison football, as was a week ago today, that the networks released the first 3 weeks for some leagues. The Mountain West went and released their entire schedule. There was one caveat out there with North Dakota State's television schedule regarding two games, the Fordham game and the game at New Mexico. And, of course, as luck would have it, as soon as we signed off the air yesterday, the bat signal went out because the Mountain West offices announced that the Bison game with New Mexico, slated for Saturday, October the 24th, will be a 9 p.m. kickoff on the CW network. So that means that'll be 5 games on the CW this upcoming season for Bison football. And 4 of them will be 9 p.m. or later kicks. All the road games outside of San Jose State, which is an afternoon kick, will be at 2:30. And then UNLV is a early evening kick at 6 o'clock. The rest of them, Air Force, Hawaii, New Mexico, and Sacramento State are all going to be after 9 o'clock at night. The other game, the Fordham game, slides into the 2:30 window, and that is on Mountain West Plus as of now. I can tell you that, and I know the Forum reported it, WDAY has put in a bid to televise both the Fordham game and the UTEP game. I don't know when we will know. Hopefully that's a positive result for us. And we'd love to be able to keep bringing some Bison football to you like we've done over the last 5 years. It's been a great partnership between North Dakota State and Foreign Communications, and love to see that continue. We'll see. That's not up to us to do that. But that's we now know. So now you know all the game times after the result yesterday, meaning NDSU's home game times will now be a 4:30 kick for Jacksonville State, 2:30 for Fordham, then 3 o'clock, or 2:30, excuse me, for homecoming with Wyoming, a 6 p.m. kick for the game with Nevada, 2:30 for UTEP, and 3 o'clock for Northern Illinois. That is about as good as it gets. I'm going to tell you that now. I was thinking there might be one 11 a.m. or noon kick that didn't materialize because the windows weren't available for NDSU to slide into that spot, as you heard John Sullivan tell us on Friday's show. But they ended up getting a pretty good deal there with their home games. The road ones, as we mentioned, going into this league, this was anticipated that this will likely be the case for the game times. Kolpak wrote yesterday, and I appreciate him doing the digging on this. The last time the Bison had 4 home games at night was 2005. The 2005 season is from Jeff's story yesterday. So the Bison play 4 home games at night at the Fargo Dome and 3 on the road. That's the season before I got here. The Bison last had at least 6 night games in 2009. Now that I remember, with 4 of those away from home. So 2009, they opened the season at Iowa State. That was a night game. They played at Sam Houston State. That was a night game. The Bison lost both of those, infamously to start 0-2 on that season. Let's see. What else did they play a night game that year? Let's see. At Southern Illinois was a 6 o'clock start. And then the Jackrabbit game, the marker game that year in Brookings, was a night game. They used to play that game almost routinely at night. That game was the middle of October, by the way. Bison got creamed that day, 28-13. That was the game after the brawl with Northern Iowa here at the Fargo Dome, so no Pat Paschal in that game. So that's the last time they played that many night road games. It's been sprinkled over the past few years. Obviously, last year, the Bison played 2 night road games at South Dakota State, at Illinois State. Both of those games were dictated by quote-unquote television. Illinois State was the ESPN Plus game of the week. The Jackrabbit game obviously was on ESPNU. 2022, the game at Arizona was that 10 p.m. start. That was on FS1 2024. They played at Colorado. That was a Thursday night game that ESPN ended up picking up. So this is going to become the new norm. You know, we talked about this. One of the many aspects of the FBS part of this was different kickoff times, maybe different kickoff days. There's only one of those this year, but later kickoffs certainly be part of it. So New Mexico, 9 p.m., October 24th, CW. We'll see about Fordham, 2:30 kick. We'll keep our fingers crossed that maybe that ends up on WDAY along with hopefully UTEP on Halloween afternoon. Lot to get to today on a busy Wednesday show. Our guest lineup is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Our guy Drew Trafton will be along here in just a few minutes. Get us ready. We talked a little bit of World Cup yesterday. We'll shift our gears to some NFL chatter and some Big Sky TV news that came out last week because the Grizz and the Cats got some love from the worldwide leader. We'll discuss that with Drew coming up in just a few minutes. At 10 o'clock, Beth Maher will join us in studio, former Shanley girls basketball head coach. Of course, for those that know the story, Beth was let go from her job in early April, appealed to get the job back, was denied. Tim Jacobson has been hired now to take over at Shanley. That became official 2 weeks ago, I want to say. We've been in contact, Beth and I, for, I would say, the last 6 weeks to have her come on. This is going to be her first interview she's given since everything went down. So I'm excited to talk to her. I'm interested to talk to her to see her perspective on this. We've tried to get both sides. Neither side has decided to talk. Beth's ready to do that today. So that's going to come up at 10 o'clock, and we will anxiously await what happens during that interview. So that's coming up at 10 o'clock this morning, and a bunch of other stuff we're going to try to get to as well over the next 2 hours or so. Bowl schedules are going to be out today as well. I don't think that's going to happen when we're on the air. If I had to guess, it's going to be same like what happened last week, 2 o'clock when the bowl schedules will come out. Why that's relevant for viewers and listeners today, because if NDSU ends up getting the appeal or the new law signed in that they're eligible immediately, then bowl games become a heck of a lot more important. If NDSU gets to 6 wins and whatever tie-in the Mountain West potentially could have, could find out a future destination there. At least you'll know where the game is, when the game is, to start maybe planning on that. So if any of those break, we'll pass that along between now and 11 o'clock, or 10:57:50 as it were. We'll take our first break. When we come back, Drew Trafton joins us on the NFC West, getting even tougher with Myles Garrett now coming to the division after the trade to the Rams. We're just getting started. Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra right after this.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, Drew Trafton joins us here in studio each and every Wednesday at 9:20. Good to see you, my man. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I immediately thought of you when I heard of the trade that went down on Monday. Boy. Not immediately, but I'm like, oh, that's great. The NFC West has become even more murderer's row. Myles Garrett now is in the NFC West.
Hey, when you just have the MVP and the runner-up to Offensive Player of the Year, you have to go out and add the best defensive player on the planet, right?
How about, I mean, you talked about this with me a while back, that obviously the Rams are hosting the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Matthew Stafford signed his deal that I don't know how long he'll play. It seems at least a couple more years. That Rams are certainly all in that 2026 is going to be their year.
Yeah, I mean, going out and get Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs. You know, I mean, they're making they're hiding nothing about the immediacy of what they're trying to do. And I mean, they've done this in the past, right? I mean, like we've seen them take huge swings in the past.
That's why I like them for doing that.
Yeah, you know, they go out, they're aggressive, and they do it. And you know, I mean, the
Jalen Ramsey trade, you remember?
Right, the Jalen Ramsey trade. The trade to get Stafford, you know, there,
correct.
Like moving Goff.
Yes.
And, you know, like just
Goff
everything.
took him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like I mean, they do what they need to do to compete, and you're right. That's a murderer's row division that they're in.
Well, 3 of them are.
With. Yeah,
the Cardinals are just waiting around wondering if Jacoby Brissett is actually going to sign.
Mm-hmm. And I think the NFL probably really likes this because, and not to make an assumption that both of the, you know, or all those teams in that division are going to stay healthy throughout the year, but Seattle and LA do not play until Christmas. So like it's going to be like
really,
yeah, 2 of the last 4 weeks it's Seahawks Rams, and then if they're both playoff teams, they could turn around right away and play again, and like Packers Vikings, like we've seen a couple.
I don't
years
like that. Play
back.
once in the first half of the year, play then again
later
in the back end.
I don't. They're backloading
like
it,
the scrunching of the schedule,
and of course the Niners and the Rams play right off the bat,
right?
In Australia, but there's no doubt that the Rams now, from a talent standpoint, stand head and shoulders above pretty much everybody else.
I found it hilarious, by the way, in the photo that they took yesterday with Garrett, with Les Snead, and with McVay. McVay has the biggest grin imaginable. Yeah. Because after what happened with the whole Ty Simpson thing when they drafted him, and he was just all stone-faced. No, McVay was grinning. Now, granted, he's got the best defensive player in the league on his team. He's grinning ear to ear.
I mean,
in the
the
press
dude
conference
has no
yesterday.
poker face at all. Like when they lost, in the NFC Championship last year, his whole fortuitous bust comment, was it's just he doesn't take losing well, and that's very obvious, and that's been the case since he got in the league. Like there was all that talk after they lost that Super Bowl to the Patriots.
Yes.
When he was all of 35 years old,
he was donezo.
He was going to retire.
Yep.
Because he just couldn't get over that loss, and they had for his. And I think that there's been this massive mismanagement of that narrative last season that they were so close. They were a 2-point conversion in the regular season away from running away with the Super Bowl, and people forget. They lost to Atlanta the following week. Yep. That was one of 4 4-point conversions they gave up that game to lose. They gave up a 3-touchdown lead to lose that game. Then they go to Carolina in the playoffs. And if Carolina had a good defensive stand at the end of the game, the Rams are out.
They lose that
if
game.
Caleb Williams the next week, doesn't have that miracle. He almost pushed them out.
Didn't they lose to the Panthers during the regular season anyway?
Yeah, they lost at the end of the season to the Panthers as well. So it's like they were great. And they very well could have ended up in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But even in that NFC Championship game, the only reason that game was close is because of a taunting penalty.
Yeah, correct.
That kept them on the
Seahawks,
field.
right? The Seahawks penalty there, totally.
They were 2 scores down with 8 minutes left in that game. It wasn't as close as people like.
I ripped the Band-Aid off here.
Sorry,
that's all right.
But it's but they are without a doubt they're so talented and more talented on paper than any other team in the NFL now, I think, by a margin.
Email comes in, this was from yesterday, to ask you about the full Nolan Teasley. Can you give us a breakdown? Because the Vikings obviously hired the Seahawks assistant GM.
Yeah.
He's going to be officially introduced here in about 35 minutes in Egan as the new Vikings general manager.
So after that word got out that he was hired, I went back and listened to a couple interviews that he's done in the past few years, because I was like, his name pops up every now and then because he started with the Seahawks in 2013, and he was kind of
a lifer, right? He's been
for
the
a long
only
time.
The only team he's ever been
for
with.
both their championships, and he's a native of Washington State. I think he went to the University of Washington as well, and he started out, or he kind of rose to being in pro personnel. So that's kind of where his focus has been, and he is an analytics guy, but he's not overly obsessive about analytics. Like he's going to look at the holistic picture, but he's all about, which I thought was really interesting, this idea of developing metrics and systems for analytics that allow you to evaluate players. That's the propriety, metric of the team. So they develop, he's big on developing your own metrics, not going after, he's going to Frankenstein them together a little bit, but he does it in a sustainable way. He's also super even keel. You're not going to hear him get overly emotional about anything. I listened to 3 different interviews. I guarantee you he will come across as dispassionate in this press conference today. He might be excited to be there, but he's going to be evenly toned. So don't expect him to be we're going to come in and do this and that and everything else.
Well,
but he's good.
If you get the sign off from John Schneider, I think you gotta know what you're doing. This is in the press release the Vikings sent out. The Teasley assisted with roster construction and integrating data and analytics within the organization's scouting process. We have to imagine he was part of the scouting process that got Gray Zabel from North Dakota State to go to Seattle.
And so one of the interviews that I listened to was right before the draft, 2 years ago now, when they drafted Zabel, and the reporter who was interviewing him was grilling him on you guys historically with your offensive line, you don't spend on those things. Like, is that going to factor into the draft this year? And he gave just like an incredibly good organizational answer about, how they evaluate talent without saying anything at all, And so that's, I think that's a sign of a good GM.
And the thing is, when Viking fans hear analytics, that's all like Kwesi was, right? And he was
I
super in on that. And that's why I think for some Viking fans, they're like, well, okay,
right.
Can we just get a football guy? Can we get a guy that can see it, analyze it, and like that's the guy we want to? Because I would have asked him, and if we could inject him with truth serum, I'd ask him, would you have signed Kyler Murray? Because he's seen Kyler Murray more than anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Because, the Seahawks play him twice a year. He's missed a few games, Murray has, with injury, and I'd be interested to know what his answer would be on that.
I would, too. I think he probably
And what he thinks of J.J. McCarthy as well.
Yes, and is he a movable piece? Is he something that they find value in?
Like those questions will be answered or asked of him today. He will not answer them honestly.
No. I like this, Matt. Like, I think that this is a good pairing because where Teasley's coming from, you think about like they have a really good defensive philosophy, right? And you could say the same of the Vikings. Like they know what they're going to do on defense. Like they ride and die with that, and it's really well done. And then you have a head coach that's a really good head coach and can establish culture.
Good play caller,
a good play caller on the offensive side, where he's coming from a spot where the head coach's specialties defense. But those guys are really similar in a lot of ways too. And so I think he has the just the framework to build this culture that's going to really work in Minnesota. So I'm excited for him. He's like way overdue for this job. He's been on the list of people that have been in line for GM jobs for a while now, and deservedly so.
I'd love to know his answer on Kyler.
I'm sure someone will ask.
I know, but I don't think he's going to answer honestly. Is my point, though.
It'll be but it'll be. I think you'll see quickly. I bet. I bet you see quickly there, and I would imagine that he's going to be pretty deferential to O'Connell when it comes to quarterback evaluation. Right?
Correct.
That's.
Already the whole thing last week out of OTAs that JJ's saying he's on one side of the room and Kyler's on the other. People are making way too much out of it. They're competing for a job.
Yeah.
What would you expect them to say?
Right. And these are guys who have been in those positions their whole life where they are the guy. Right. And neither one of them has had to really compete with anybody.
How many games do you think Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy start this year? Out of the 17 the Vikings
I think Kyler's going to start the season. I think it's his job.
So I think he gets banged up, though. So I think he misses a couple.
Yeah,
I think like Murray starts like
there.
13. I bet you JJ starts 3 and Carson starts 1.
I don't want to overblow all this talk like that we heard from like Florio and stuff yesterday about how he's asking for a trade, but I wouldn't be entirely shocked if
he's not even on the team before the season starts.
That just wouldn't shock me. Like if JJ's not even there.
Think about that. Less than 2 years after being drafted and done.
But you have to ask
yourself. The Jets are the only ones in on that.
Where's his value?
I know.
Is it going to get more than it is now? If you can get a decent pick for him in exchange, like everyone talks, next year's draft is talent rich. It's like if you can somehow accrue picks, like do it. I think
right, exactly on that. We're gonna go a little heavy here, Eric. So just a heads up, because I have not got your thoughts yet. Last week the TV schedules came out. The Big Sky got even bigger on ESPN, and Tom Wistrcill, to his credit, came on my show and said, "Hey, we're gonna have more games on TV this year." They end up getting 5. Here are the 5 games they're going to have, including a Week 0 game that everybody wants. Idaho at Cal Poly on Friday night, August the 28th, and it's on ESPN to start the Big Sky season.
And looking at that schedule, that might just be the best game on there. I don't
think Montana State Idaho will be any good.
Maybe they'll be okay. Like
that's a Friday night game, by the way, for the Cats playing. That's a 9:30 a game on ESPN.
So when I saw that slate initially, like my stomach didn't drop, but it was just like I was like completely uninspired. I was like, there aren't great matchups.
They're not going to take. They can't take Cats Grizz. Yep, automatically that's off the table.
Yep.
Instead, they took Idaho State at Montana.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time Idaho State won in Missoula? Have they ever won in Missoula?
No, and like, I mean, I can't remember the last time. Like, you'd have to go back to like the early 2000s.
By the way, it's a 9:30 kick Central Time in Missoula.
I was just trying to find some gas in that lineup, and it's like there's one good team in each of those. You know, like I mean, we don't know what Idaho's going to be.
Davis. I mean,
Davis was okay last year.
And Davis will be good again.
They'll probably
be
a top 15 team this year.
I'd say top 10.
Yeah, like,
just with the liquidation of what's happened, I think they'll be a top 10 team.
They could be up there. You know, like I think you have 3 top 10 teams.
Is Northern Arizona going to be any good?
I mean, they could be. Yeah. I just don't think they're going to go into Bozeman and like do anything fun to watch. And so it's, I don't know.
This is simply we can put games on after 9 o'clock at night
and get 200,000 people to watch. You know, like that's their whole.
If they get 100,000, they'd probably be jumping up and down.
Yeah, and you know, some of us will make it to halftime, and the game will be over by then anyway.
So I'm looking here when like the Bison are playing. The only one that they're conflicting with is the Hawaii game, that last one on November the 14th. The Bison play at Hawaii. That starts a half hour later than the Idaho State-Montana game does.
Well, I know what I'm doing that night. But it's like get some coffee.
Flip in, right?
Yeah.
What do you make of that? Have you heard? I know you know plenty of people around the area that now 4 9 o'clock kickoffs for NDSU football this fall.
Yeah, it's going to take some adjusting. You know what I mean? Like
that,
like you just going through that in your opening segment of like how many, like I didn't realize that they had that many night games, you know, that in that, like, I mean, obviously you're going back 15, 16 years, but it's like that's going to be a culture shift.
Totally.
In town.
Totally. People have just gotten used to, they're going to play at 1 or they're going to play at 2:30.
And like that could be a great thing. You know,
Friday
like,
night.
I mean, there's going to be a ton of hype around it. And if they're successful, I mean, and I assume they're going to be successful, it's going to be fun. And there could be like a really cool nightlife thing around this that develops.
Well,
but it's
I got a message yesterday saying that, you know, the amount of bars close at 2:00. The amount they're going to be right to the very end for some of those games.
Yeah, they're Saturday night crowds. They're going to be different looking. You know, it's going to be a lot of green and gold, and it's going to be a lot of
bars better start. I'm sure they are adjusting their promotional schedules around later in the day. Right,
find more spots for screens. You know, like just that's what you got to do.
Last thing. We talked in the World Cup last week. United States men's national team whipped Senegal over the weekend. So, of course, now I'm sky high on they're not going to crash out in the first round.
Yeah.
But you have some breaking news to share.
Yeah, breaking news. I've somehow fallen into tickets for the U.S.-Australia game.
Wow.
So I'm going to be there.
Let's go.
Yeah. And
you are going.
I'm going.
So
I'm going to
June
be in
the 19th.
Stands. Yeah. Pretty
in
cool.
Seattle.
In Seattle. I'm going to be in the lower bowl. I'm going to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm
2 o'clock. That's 2 o'clock Central. So noon Pacific. That is early.
It's an early start, which is probably good
because you told me the Mariners play that night.
Yeah, they play that night. So my plan is, you know, go from one stadium and you walk a block and you're in the other stadium.
That's fantastic.
It should be like the gates should be opening right about that time, and hopefully
awesome.
People are just pumped because we just whooped Australia.
Can we beat Australia?
Yeah.
Should we beat Australia?
Yep. Okay. We should. So the U.S.
So we should be 2-0 at that point.
We should have 6 points, or at the at
we're
least
moving
4.
on.
And then if we have 6 points,
we're moving on.
You're moving on because you just have to finish third in the group. So that's a guaranteed.
That's awesome.
Punch to the next.
Are you going to be dressed up? Are you going to
I
join?
Have it figured out. I've got my 2006 U.S. home jersey. I'm going to wear a American flag bandana.
I don't know about 2006, man. We crashed out. We were not good in that World Cup, man.
It's a nice looking.
All right.
It's the white, and then I'm going to wear my USA scarf as well.
You're going to be part of Uncle Sam's army. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Eric, what do you got last time? We got to go here. Last time Idaho State beat Montana in Missoula.
In Missoula, you got to go back to 1975.
1975.
Okay, so 50 years ago.
10-7.
51 years ago was the last time Idaho State won. I don't think that streak's going to end.
No, I remember a couple times I think they've lost at Idaho State, like on that awful turf, like that turf monster they have there. It's like you break arms left and right, but that's 1975.
So there you go. You'll be part of Uncle Sam's army. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's gonna be
you'll have
so
a blast.
awesome.
We'll have to. We'll be looking for you then on camera. Clearly,
I'll make sure I stay.
Get on the field. Tell Pucelik to shoot the ball. Stop,
If Poch wants to put me in, I can start running a little bit here.
Little extended segment with Drew. Thanks for coming by, bud. Appreciate it.
Me.
There he is, Drew Trafton joining us. Will we see you before you leave?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you next
Wednesday.
week. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll get you one more
do it.
time before heading out to the West Coast. We'll break. We come back. We mentioned NBA Finals get going tonight. We'll chat on that. We got a few other emails. Don't forget, Beth Maher joining us here in studio at 10. Back on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra right after this.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
Welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Drew Trafton giving us a few minutes there. So tonight it begins. NBA Finals get underway from San Antonio. Game 1 coming up tonight. You'll see it on WDAY about 7:30. Pregame at 7 with Inside the NBA to follow on ESPN. So you'll have Ernie Johnson, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith for the first time on the NBA Finals, something I think a lot of us that follow sports media, myself certainly included in that once the NBA left TNT and this came about, or how that's going to work, well, we're going to see it tonight as you see the schedule for the first 4 games that we know absolutely are going to happen, which is tonight, a rare Friday night NBA Finals Game 2. Even rarer is going to be a potential Saturday night. That would be Game 5, which would be back in San Antonio. But I can tell you this. The next week's games in New York, next Monday, and a week from tonight, next Wednesday, are going to be wild. Not to say that San Antonio won't be ready, because I already saw on Good Morning America this morning, they have the shirts already laid out, the alternate coloring shirts, whether it be orange. They did it against the Wolves, I think, in Game 1. And that was the game that the Timberwolves won to start the series against Wembanyama and San Antonio. So that's the layout there for that. And infinitely curious on how this will play out. I mean, everyone, I think, thought San Antonio's a year away, right? This isn't supposed to be their year. Oklahoma City is back. They have everybody there. Granted, Jalen Williams got hurt. A.J. Mitchell got hurt, so that's 2 of their dudes that didn't end up playing a majority of that series with San Antonio, but there was still their time. They had the MVP. They had Chet Holmgren, who obviously did not have a great series against the Spurs, but they weren't going to lose. That the Spurs hadn't had any playoff experience. They haven't done it before, and that's not how you do it in the NBA. And San Antonio blew that to smithereens because they have a guy that no one's ever seen before. They have a 7'5" unicorn who can shoot the 3, who can take you off the dribble and get to the basket. That no one's seen this, and now he'll be on full display in the NBA Finals. And I was trying to think back of the first time that we heard about him, because I distinctly remember playing video of this guy before the draft, whatever year he was drafted, 22 or 23 when he was the first overall pick. And like, okay, this is this complete alien that's been dominating in Europe, playing professionally there since whatever he was, 14 or 15 years old, and thinking, well, when he gets to the NBA, well, he's really thin and he's lean, and how is this going to work? Like, he'll probably be, this year, our generation's version of Manute Bol. I distinctly remember Manute Bol, who was 7'7", but he was thin. He was just thin as a rail, and you could move him out of the way, and he could occasionally shoot a three-pointer. For our younger audience, please Google video of Manute Bol shooting a 3. It is by far the most bizarre thing you've ever seen. But that's what I think the perception was before Wembanyama started playing. And then he got here, and it was just nothing we've ever seen before. And obviously last year ended early for him. He had the blood clots, and his season came to an end. Now this year comes around, and he's had the concussion that happened in the first round. Obviously what happened with Naz Reid in the second round with the ejection, and he's never been tossed. I'll never forget that video. The shot that NBC had of him on the bench asking one of the assistant coaches, what does that mean on the flagrant 2 that he got, that he was ejected from the game. And then what ends up happening after that, he was unbelievable in Game 5, and the Spurs wiped the floor with the Wolves in Game 6. And then he comes out in Game 1 of the series with OKC and was even better. I mean, he was just phenomenal. So Now we get to see this on display. And I think for, again, the average fan or even non-fans, they watch this, right? If you're just flipping the dial, it's a Wednesday night in June, and, I don't want to stream anything on Netflix, and, hey, ABC's got basketball on. Well, I've heard about this really tall guy. I might check that out. And I'm sure for a lot of non-sports fans, that's how they know who Wembanyama is. But that's the appeal of this. That's why the ratings for this could be so huge, is that there's that angle in it. And then you have to add into it, and people will roll their eyes at this, the New York part of it, that the number one media market in the country and the world is in the NBA Finals, which they have not been in 27 years, as I talked about yesterday with Mike on the show, that there is just an energy anytime you have New York involved in anything. It just happens. If it's the World Series and the Yankees are there, maybe sometime soon the Mets will make it back, but it's there. The Super Bowl, it's only been the Giants. It's been a long time since the Jets were there. I can't imagine if that would ever happen, but with the Giants, you know what I mean? It's there. Hockey, same thing. With the Rangers, not necessarily with the Islanders. And basketball, we haven't experienced. I mean, there are people that are, 25 years old, have no idea what I'm talking about, the Knicks in the NBA Finals, right? I mean, it's 1999's a long time ago. I remember it vividly of them making it there and how crazy it was. It was the lockout-shortened season of the NBA, so the finals didn't start until like the middle of June. And the Knicks were banged up with Larry Johnson, and Patrick Ewing was out. That's not the case now. So just that energy there, that will bring more viewers into it. And I'm sure like next week and that's not to say there won't be any celebrities in San Antonio, but next week when the series goes to New York, people are going to, hey, who's sitting in the front row? That, again, it brings in the casual just observer. It doesn't even have to be a fan of this. And that's, to me, the interesting part about it. Like the hardcore basketball snobs will certainly be into this because the matchup is that appealing. And it has the potential to be a really, really good series. I think when the outset started, and I said it before the Western Conference Finals began, that was the NBA championship between the Spurs and the Thunder, and it played out as a 7-game series. And frankly, we only had maybe 2 good games. One really good one, 2 quasi-good ones. I'll amend that now. I think the Knicks can not only have a good series, they can win this thing. The Knicks went through the Eastern Conference with a buzzsaw there. They've lost 2 games. They've swept out their last 2 opponents. So it sets up for all the potential we could have a really good championship series. And you know what? After last year, we didn't expect Indiana and OKC to go 7, and it did, and it was fantastic. Outside of the part of Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles right in the start of Game 7 a year ago. That's what you want. I know, just a quick offshoot here, Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, was asked about the playoff format the NHL has, and he's a huge champion of it, and if the commissioner likes it, it's not going to change. Because he says, we had more entertaining first-round games and upsets and all that. Well, okay, but don't you want the best teams playing as late as possible? Like, we might have a great, all-time great Stanley Cup final between Vegas and Carolina. But you want not necessarily the hottest team. You want the 2 best teams, and you want a long series. The network certainly wants it because they're paying a pretty good freight for these games that are preempting a bunch of programming and local programming. And certainly the league wants it because the longer the series goes, more people are drawn in. So we'll see. I'm on the edge of my seat for what's going to happen tonight. Should be fantastic, and we'll recap Game 1 coming up on the show tomorrow. All right, we'll break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. As I mentioned, big second hour plan here on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mike, which continues after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com. All right, wrapping up our first hour. A couple of other notes wanted to get in here before we break and start our second part of the show. We're into the part of the year now where we're starting to get little tidbits on the upcoming non-conference for college basketball schedules. Mind you, remember in the Summit League now that Everybody will play. Since we're down to eight teams, that means 7 teams, 14 games. I'll save that from rant for another day. But you still got it now, and the NCAA signed off that you can play up to 31 or 32 games. That means for men's basketball, you got to find 18 games in the non-conference. We detailed it earlier in the spring. Actually, I think it was the wintertime because it was right before the Summer League tournament. Yeah, the announcement that the 2 Montanas, the 2 Idahos, the 2 South Dakotas, and the 2 North Dakotas are going to play each other in kind of a round-robin deal in lieu of the Big Sky Summit League contract going away. So NDSU has games with Idaho and Idaho State signed for this coming year. They go to Idaho. Idaho State will come here. We know that they're going to play Washington State. That's a home and home for the Bison men. They'll go to Pullman this year, and then they will return next season. The Cougars will come in here. That's a Pac-12 team coming to Fargo next year. It'll be awfully good. We got this confirmed yesterday as well. You remember last year the Bison went to Cal State Bakersfield. The Roadrunners are going to come back to Fargo on November the 15th. That's a Sunday. So far, we know at least 3 confirmed dates for Bison men's hoops for non-conference games next year at Washington State, and they're all Sunday games. I don't know what we're doing here. At Washington State on Sunday, December the 6th, home for Idaho State on Sunday, December the 20th, and home for Cal State Bakersfield on Sunday, November the 15th. Also, we found out yesterday the University of North Dakota is going to open up its season for the men at Williams Arena against the University of Minnesota. That'll be on November the 2nd. That's the first day of the college basketball season. Monday, November the 2nd, the Gophers will host UND. So last year, remember, both the Bison and Fighting Hawks played exhibition games against Minnesota. Now they step up and play a regular season game. That'll be on Monday, November the 2nd between UND and Minnesota. Bison women, we know of at least 2 games. I don't have dates on them yet. Just the back ends of home and homes. We know the Bison women are going to go to Gonzaga because obviously the Zags came here last year. And Northern Iowa will come here as the Bison opened last year at UNI. So those 2 games we know are on the schedule for the upcoming year. Once we get some dates on that, we'll start plugging them together. We'll let you know as soon as possible on that. But good get for UND to play Minnesota again. All right, we'll break. When we come back, we'll start our second hour. Former Shanley girls basketball head coach Beth Maher will join us here in studio. Talk about what the last 6 weeks of her life have been like and what went down. That's coming up. We start hour 2 on a Wednesday morning. We're back right after this.
This is Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll here on a rainy Wednesday. So, I think many people know about a month and a half ago, we got word, story broke here on WDAY that Shanley girls basketball and boys basketball was making a change for both their coaches. That Beth Maher would be out after a second consecutive trip to the state tournament, did not resign. That was, I'll say it my words, was forced out as head coach. And both coaches were let go. There was I would say, a pretty good firestorm afterwards. Shanley has since hired former state champion and coach Tim Jacobson to take over on the girls' side. I've been pretty much constant contact with Beth, I would say, over the last 6 weeks. And she's been good enough here to join us in studio. Her husband is also here, former Bison Hall of Fame linebacker Jared Maher is here. Guys, I wish I was talking with you under better circumstances. It's always good to see you. I'm going to just start here. Take me back to end of the season and go from there, from your conversations with Shanley's administration after the basketball season ended.
After the basketball season ended, I had a really great feeling after state. You know, we didn't perform as well as we had hoped, but as a young team, continuing to grow, team dynamics seemed to be really good. The girls were in great spirits. Even, things with the parents seemed okay. And then, after I had my end of the season review, that was mostly 4s and 5s positive on a scale of 0 to 5. I was asked to come back in a week or so later And I thought we were meeting about summer basketball camps, but I was asked to resign during that meeting.
Our athletic director, Mark Holcraft, asked you to resign.
Correct.
And you were under no impressions that your job was on the line, in worry. Nothing was said prior to that second meeting you had.
There were a few, comments. I'm certainly not the perfect coach, and nobody is. And there were some comments that we, of course, during an end of the season evaluation that you discuss, and a few things that were on my radar. But as a reflective person, I right away personally went home and was like, okay, these are things that I can fix for next year. Was very excited going into the summer, but yeah, nothing too alarming that.
And again, your performance review was 4s and 5s, which are, for people that don't know, that's good.
Good, yes.
To great,
yes,
correct?
Correct.
So nothing, red flags, no, hey, this is something that we're going to have to address, that your job may be in jeopardy.
Correct. And Mark also was very supportive of me during that end of the season eval.
The first one that you had.
The first one, yeah.
Okay. Did anything pop up, Beth, during the season? Did you hear from parents to say, hey, we don't like what's happening right now?
Not one parent requested a meeting with me or even a phone call, not with me or my 5 other staff members, coaches on staff.
So nothing said during the season?
Correct.
Only until after it that something came up?
Correct.
So I found out, 2 sources told me that there were a smaller group of parents that were unhappy with how your coaching style. Did you hear that at all throughout the year? There were any complaints at all about that come up?
Nothing directly to me.
Yeah.
I'm a reflective person and pay attention to dynamics and so forth, but not one parent came to me or requested a phone call or a meeting. So basically, when I did come in for my for that second meeting that I thought was about basketball camps, it was brought to my attention that there was a small group of anonymous surveys that came in that showed some unhappiness.
So you're completely blindsided here.
Correct.
What's you're going through this, so I'm assuming you come home from that and tell me you find out that this is going down.
Well, I'm consistently over the last 6 weeks, I go from disbelief to anger. And I can tell you that if we're going to use anonymous surveys to determine whether or not somebody has a job, then I would suggest we survey all of the coaches that have worked for this athletic director over the last 2 years, and we can base his job off of that.
I would say there's been certainly I've gotten feedback as well from some displeased other parents as well of other sports at Shanley. All right, so that goes down. You obviously were not going to resign.
Correct.
So take me after that conversation with Mark Holcraft. What happened after that?
So after I was asked to resign, I flat out said that I was not going to resign. Yeah. I love coaching at Shanley, or I loved it. I loved being a part of it. I was proud to coach there, and we're certainly proud to send our children to school there. Not to mention all the work that my staff and I put in the last 3 years was finally going to come to fruition in my 4th year, and everything was looking really great for the 4th season. So I had said no, I would not resign, and then I was asking if I could have an improvement plan.
And that was denied?
That was denied.
So this past season, you're 16-10. You make state for the 2nd year in a row. You have a team, I think, that people that follow girls basketball in the area certainly know. You have some really talented young players. You have one player that's got numerous Division I offers that you guys are on the come up here. Like, you're on a chance to be really, really good. Blindsided was the word I would use as well when I found out the news that went down, because it just seemed completely out of left field, especially if there weren't any glaring instances that you heard of during the season. How did your team find out? Did you tell them, or was this something they found out online?
Correct. I did not have an opportunity to speak with the girls, which was disappointing. The girls, I believe, found out on that Saturday when I decided to post about it.
Yeah.
When I had found out on Friday morning, of course, it was emotional. I was in disbelief. But then once I had reached out to a few people, just needing to talk to my support system, word does travel fast, and I was getting a lot of messages. And a lot of questions, and I had made that decision on Saturday evening that I wanted to make a statement that this wasn't my choice, and I thought that I just wanted to get on top of it and make sure people knew that it wasn't my decision to step away.
I had heard, I think, about 12 hours before you had posted anything, and I was trying to get my ducks in a row before I contacted you to say, okay, what happened here? For the second meeting you had with Mark, who else was in part of that meeting?
Father Metzger was in on the meeting as well.
That was it. That was in there.
Correct.
So this happens. Obviously, it blows up that following Monday. Take me through what that following few days were like. Did you have a chance to meet again with Mark about, hey, can we talk about an improvement plan, or was that ship had sailed after that?
Yes, I believe that ship had sailed. I made a second statement out on social media because I wanted to be clear that the vast majority of the Shanley community has been so supportive and really a reason why I've been able to get through this as best I can. And so many younger families, we have children ranging from kindergarten all the way up to now, first grader now, and then a senior. So we're well invested into the school, and we love sending our kids to school to Shanley. And we sent our kids to school to Shanley well before I started coaching. It was just a fun thing that I was going to get to do that would improve my life and get to be a part of the Shanley community where our kids go to school and get to do something that I'm passionate about. So that week was emotional and lots of messages. And I think I still am scouring through my phone saying, oh, I'm so sorry I never messaged you back. But just an enormous amount of support. Jared, do you have anything to stem off of that?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, the majority of people at Shanley either called us, either Beth or myself, reached out online or through messaging, and still to this day we'll show up to different events, and volunteers at the school will come up and talk to us. And I do want to say that the Shanley community is amazing, and we love Shanley. And any narrative about, was this about donations, I would argue the opposite of that is true. Yes, there's some affluent families at Shanley. I would argue there's affluent families at least a few other schools in this area as well. But the vast majority of families are middle-income families whose parents are making sacrifices to send their kids to a small Catholic school. That experience when I was young completely changed the trajectory of my life. And there are a lot of families on tuition assistance because we wouldn't ever want to not provide that opportunity for families who can't afford it. So there's positives from every negative experience. And the people who have reached out to us, so positive in so many ways.
Has it been awkward, Jared, going to a sporting event? And you mentioned your daughter just played in the Class A softball tournament. So the softball season was just getting started when this happened. What was going to an event like that when this just happened?
Well, we're an awfully busy family. Yeah. And there have been a lot of events that only I have been able to attend because Beth's been with one of our other kids, in different states. And I would say at no point has anybody made me feel anything but supported in communicating that to my wife.
You're a visible family. You're out there. I think almost everybody knows, certainly your eldest daughter, of what she's doing right now. Was there any hesitation to say, I don't know if I want to go right back out there? Obviously, you want to support all of your kids, but after this happened, was there any, I don't know if I want to have my face right out there after what just went down?
Yeah, I think I would be lying if I wouldn't say that is true. There have certainly been instances. I think really just makes me sad that I would never want the girls to think that I have any harsh feelings or sad feelings towards them. And sometimes maybe feeling like the girls don't know how to interact with me when they see me dropping off and picking up kids or at certain school events. I know that those things will heal as time goes on. But I think that's probably, part of the reason why I wanted to come today is that it was just such a mismanaged situation, and that even a lot of people in the public are like, there has to be something more, or,
something nefarious.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just, I think it was just the mismanagement of the situation that has made everything feel so yucky.
Is that the hardest part for you, that you didn't have a chance to talk to your team?
Definitely. No goodbyes. Again, we are visible in the community, so I do get to see the girls out and about, and I think I have confidence that their parents hopefully spoke with them and handled it so they understand how to interact with me. But yeah, our girls are going to be signing up for the basketball camps, and we're going to be, we want Sylvia and Molly playing basketball, and so we're going to be a part of all of the basketball things. Yes, it's going to be hard, but also, this is part of coaching. Yeah. Coaches come and go. But really, coming here today, too, is just raising awareness about communication and how we can help parent better, and how, it's important to teach your teenagers that they need to go talk to their coaches. They need to have those communication skills.
I want to do more on that.
Okay.
We've got to take a commercial break. Let's do that. We'll come back. Much more in studio. Beth Maher, Jared Maher joining us here, talking about what went down at Shanley here about 6 weeks ago. So we'll break. Much more on Hot Mic here on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMB, on Inforum.com. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Back in studio. Beth Maher, Jared Maher joining us here, discussing Beth being let go as Shanley girls basketball coach about 6 weeks ago. I want to follow up on something you ended our most recent segment with, and talking about signing up to do this. Because to me, what happened now totally discourages any younger coaches wanting to do it. I remember talking to you, and you were helping out with the 9th grade team. And I'm not sure if you thought head coach would be down the road. It ended up being the case. I just looking down for, especially for young women that want to go and do this, something like this happens, how detrimental can this be going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. I certainly don't ever want to, steer young girls in different paths, because we want women coaching. Right. We want female role models. But I also just think that I'm learning, and as we all do, different ways to handle situations, making sure open lines of communication are there, being firm, but setting boundaries. Definitely want to encourage females to coach, but also, unfortunately, you have to be on your toes a little bit more. There's a little bit extra criticism there, and you have to be ready, prepared for it.
Had you heard, and I guess I should have asked this in the last segment, did you have any complaints the first 2 years? Did you have any, rankings in your evaluations under 4? Did you have that in the first 2 years of being a varsity head coach?
So there's certainly there were dynamics that weren't perfect, and there were some unhappy parents. Those years, parents did talk to me, and
so at least you had conversation.
And we
were
able to work things out, whether they were happy with the result or not. My goal is not, as a coach, your goal is always what's best for the team. And when you have a large group of people together and athletes, you're not always going to you can't make everybody happy. Yeah. So it's always making decisions on what you feel is best for the team, but then also knowing that your administration hired you and they trust and believe that you are going to be making those decisions.
Beth, did you have a plan like prior to the season to tell parents, hey, if your daughter has an issue, then you come to me, not to my boss? Was that laid out for parents to understand before the season got going? Correct.
Yep. There's always a parent-player meeting at the before season.
Yeah.
Attendance isn't always great. I tried to make it a little bit more creative this year so I could track to see who attended, because that is an important meeting to attend. And I would say for any parents listening that if you are skeptical of a coach or how things are going to go, attending those parent-player meetings, finding out what their coaching handbook states is super important. And it not only did my coaching handbook state the policy, but it also followed the Deacon way that Shanley promotes at our school as well. But always starts with player coach meeting, and then player coach parent, and then if you can't get that figured out, then we get administration involved.
Jared, going for Beth to take this on, I mean, you guys are a busy family. When she decided, hey, I'm going to go for this job, it's one thing to be aware of, hey, I got to take care of what's on the court. Off the court is just I don't know if that's something that we all think about, that's you got to have your eyes open about what's going on off the floor.
Yeah, and I have my regrets of not being more involved. However, I always felt that, I shouldn't necessarily be sitting around the other parents, because they should be able to be disappointed and upset without the coach's husband sitting around.
Sitting there? Yeah.
So it was a respectful thing. And never once throughout this whole situation has Beth ever implied that parents shouldn't be proponents for their kids. They should 100% be proponents for their kids. But there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way. And unfortunately, the barrier here is an athletic director, and it's a difficult job. You have to be qualified to be an athletic director. You have to be competent to be an athletic director. And ultimately, you need an administration. You need leaders of the school who have the courage to make a situation that was done wrong better. And wrong happens to a lot of people. I would argue everybody is wronged in their life. And it's how you stand up and protest that makes the difference. And I'm so proud of my wife for how she's handled this, because she's handled it a lot better than I have in a lot of situations.
I want to go back to, we talked a couple weeks ago, there was did you file a formal appeal? Can you tell us about what went down prior to Tim Jacobson getting hired?
Correct. Yes. So I did. So the appeal process starts with the president of the school. So I did follow a formal appeal with the president, and him and I had some meetings. President Hagstrom was very kind, said some very nice things. Ultimately, I was disappointed in his final decision of supporting the initial decision. And so I have decided to take it to the chair of the board of directors, not to get my job back at this point. I think that obviously that ship has sailed, but really just to raise awareness of the leadership, and the leadership in the athletic department, as well as the leadership in the school. As we've mentioned several times, we're invested in the school. Yeah. Our kids attend there, and athletics is a huge. I played college basketball. Jared played college football. Now, not all of our children play sports. Annabelle's a musician, but families that are into sports, the athletic departments at the schools are important. So having those running correctly is a huge piece to schools.
Okay, if you could, who was involved in the appeal? Was it just the president? Was it the board? Who was involved in making that decision?
So the first step to the appeal is the president of the school and myself, and then after that is resolved, then I was made aware by the president that I could go to the board, which I have decided to do.
I would say there were people, when I mentioned this, that say, well, why would she even want to have her job back? That what happened? Just say, yeah, I'm done with that. Can you tell me your thoughts of that? With, hey, I want to fight for my job, even though I've been wronged here.
Right. I went back and forth with that as well, and I got that question a lot too. Yeah. Like, would you even want to go back and coach? And the question, the piece that always came back to me is that I always felt this was never about the parents. This was always about the sport that I loved, and I really cared for these girls. And I truly feel that this is a situation that got out of hand with a mismanagement of a situation where the girls never had an opportunity we never had an opportunity to work things out. They're amazing young women. They're amazing girls, and I know that they respected me. And that's just, one of the disappointing parts is that I never had a chance to an opportunity to work things out with them.
So after the season ends, do you have like an exit meeting with the team? Is that typical, or is that not really what happens in high school basketball?
It does, yep.
Okay.
So we have exit interviews, and I had made it halfway through our exit interviews. Our season ended, March 16th or 17th after state, and I think we were into the end of March with Easter. Again, I had made it through halfway through the interviews. I had to cancel one day because we decided to go on an anniversary trip. But that was the other disappointing part, is I never had a chance to finish those exit interviews as well.
You have time for like 10 more minutes to stick around?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
we're going to take one more break here, so we'll do that now. I want to talk future, if coaching is down the line here. We'll do that. Beth and Jared Maher joining us here in studio. Back on Hot Mic. Final half hour coming up when we come back.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We got a few minutes left here with the Mahers are here, Beth and Jared, discussing Beth being fired as head coach at Shanley. There was a few things that came to my mind just listening to both of you speak. The first thing I had, and you've been on this show a couple times, I know, advocating so strongly when it was you and Morgan Milbrath were the only women coaches in AAA basketball in the state, period. Now we're down to one. Would you want to keep doing this? If someone said, hey, Beth, we want you to be our coach, would you hop back in after what just went down?
Yes, I'm not somebody who's going to back down to a situation like this. Now, I would need to be thoughtful and make sure that I'm setting myself up for success. I mean, you always need to be your number one advocate, right? But again, I do not want to discourage any females from coaching, and I'm cheering for Morgan. When before I started coaching, Tona Stefanski, she was the female coach at Davies, and she was really successful. And I remember watching her, and Tona was my grad assistant in college, and thinking, okay, yeah, I want to do this. Tona does an amazing job. I know she knows the game well. And so then after I was hired for my first year, then Tona and I were the only two females, and then Tona resigned so she could go follow her girls at MSUM in Concordia. So then I was the only female coach last year, or 2 years ago. And then when Morgan was coaching this year, there was a great, the Forum did a great story on her and I, and she did an amazing job. She had a great first year. I'm sure she's learning a lot of things too, but I'll be one of her number one fans this year.
If she comes to you and says, I got a job opportunity, how would you feel about that, to coach again?
Well, she's already been offered 3 jobs, 2 regional high schools and a high school in Bismarck that I'm very fond of. And, it's difficult because she's coaching at Shanley, in large part because that's where our family lives and loves, is at Shanley. And our kids, our little girls especially, for the last, 3 years have grown up, hanging out in Coach Beth's office, watching Netflix and running around with the girls. It would be hard for me to fall in love with a coaching job for my wife. That being said, I want the best for her. When she decided to kind of take a step back from working after we'd had our 4th baby and then went on to have our 5th, it was so meaningful for her to get involved in coaching again after years of just dealing with me. And obviously the wrangling our 5 children around the country. So yes, I would support her in anything and any team that she could engage with, and just absolutely, she's so talented.
This may be a dumb question. I'll ask anyway, because I know you mentioned in the last segment. Did you ever hear any off-put comments? It's not like people can say what they want to say, but did you ever get wind of any friends saying, "Hey, there's a group of people that are upset with Beth and how she's coached"? Did you ever catch wind of that at all?
I think that there's been one dad over the last few years who did play 1 year of college basketball before he quit, who made sure everybody knew that he would do something different without really telling anybody. coach or any of her staff what those things were. But other than that, there's ebbs and flows of a season. There's games where girls play well. There's games where girls play poorly. And it hit me with as much surprise, if not more, than coach.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, because to me, it always felt like if you're going to, and you talked about in the last segment, have a understanding, if there is an issue, come to me. Did you feel like Mark supported you during the season, that he had your back? If there was something up, that you had support from the administration?
Yes. Yes, he would say that to me often, that he had my back and that I was his coach. And yes, I mean, he has his hands full with our new hockey program, and an athletic director is a huge job especially in this day and age with how invested parents are. I can't imagine the role that athletic directors have to do every day with how athletics is transcended.
I'm sure you've probably gone over this 1,000 times in your mind. How hard is it not to do that? Like, is there one conversation, like, could I do that over again? How hard is that to do? Like, to not go over the minutia of everything that you said or did after something like this happens?
Yeah, like I have said several times, there are things that I know I didn't do perfect, and I
guess my question is, how do you not overanalyze every little thing because you don't know one specific thing that caused this?
And that's where I do overanalyze, because it does come back to these certain themes that I know I wanted to improve on, but when I overanalyze those themes, they're never severe enough where I think that I wouldn't get my job back. So that's where it just is a lot of overanalyzing. And then I do play games with myself, like, was there something else? Did I do? And, again, it's just the mismanagement of the situation is what is so disappointing. And the reason that I'm being an advocate, the reason I came here today is, yes, I am moving forward with my life, and I'm supporting Tim and the girls. They, should have a successful season, and I'm excited to see where the girls basketball program goes at Shanley. But also just wanting to raise awareness that there are policies and there are ways that you can handle situations when you're unhappy. And it's the right thing to do. It's the Christian-like thing to do. And administration needs to make sure that that is being followed.
Jared, the amount of attention this got, that surprised you, of what went down over the last 5-6 weeks on it?
No, and it shouldn't have surprised anybody involved in this decision. If they thought that they could, make this decision and that it was just not going to
just going to go away.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I'm interested for you, when the next season starts, Shanley goes out there playing, what's going to go through your mind?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I, didn't think about that at night when I go to bed. The summer is the most work, because a good coach knows that the work you put in the summer has a reflection of what the basketball season is going to be. And my summer looks a lot different than what I was expecting, and I'm still trying to navigate that and figure that out. But I'm certainly, with 5 kids, am filling that void and gap very quickly with our children. But once the basketball season starts, I've played those thoughts in my head a lot, like, will I attend the games? What games will I be going to? How will the girls feel if they see me in the stands? Wanting to be conscientious of that. But then also, again, going back to, I still have 2 young girls that I hope are basketball players.
That was my next question. Will you, if they say, Mom, I want to play basketball at Shanley, how would you do with that?
We're just going to take one year at a time, and we'll get things figured out, and time heals. Certainly want to handle things maturely and so forth. And, like we've mentioned before, this isn't the first time it's happened at Shanley.
No.
Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but, who knows? But, yeah, it's going to be tough come November. And so I loved coaching those girls, and I loved coaching at Shanley, so it's going to be a difficult time for me.
Seeing how the team responded, especially your second year, you guys go to state playing at the Fargo Dome. I remember talking to you before playing at the Dome that night. You're playing the best team out of the West in Bismarck Century. Did you feel like, okay, we're making the right steps here? We've made it. Now, this past year, made it again. We are on the doorstep maybe of knocking the door down and being really, really good. I got to imagine that's the other gut punch here, to think we got to have a team that could be really, really good this coming year. Which is lost in this because it's not the most important thing, but I have to imagine, like, man, we
absolutely
have a chance to be really, really good.
Well, and people who understand coaching know that it's never a quick fix. It's a plan. It's a long-term plan, and that's what was exciting is that we made it to state a year earlier than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, this year the goal was to win a game. Mentally, we didn't come in prepared. And would things look different for me if we did win a game at state? Those are things that I battle with as well. But yeah, the next season's going to be difficult, and it's going to be challenging to figure out, how our family's going to handle it. But just pray about it and know that God's got a plan, and we'll trust that.
My last thing, and I really appreciate you guys coming by. I know this is not easy to do this. What is next now in the formal process? Is that over now after the appeal, or can you tell me what's ahead on this?
I'm not really sure. I know that you and I were having several conversations about me coming on the show. We wanted to be patient. We, also our daughter was competing in softball, and we just wanted to make sure that we were focusing on that. We said walking in today that we kind of felt like this was kind of our final, we just want to make the statement that we're moving forward. But we also, so the appeal is still, I believe, going. I think there was a 30-day time span. I haven't heard anything. Again, the ship has sailed for me coaching, but just raising that awareness of making sure that policy is handled correctly is my main purpose.
Guys, I know this wasn't easy. I really appreciate you coming by and talking and telling the story. I wish, like I said at the start, this was under way different circumstances of seeing you both, and I wish you luck. I do. I hope you're coaching again sometime soon, because I know how much you enjoyed it. So
thank you.
Thanks for guys for coming by.
You so much for having me, Dom. And I also just want to say that the community has been so supportive, and it really has helped our family. This was a family investment, not just from Jared and I, but my sister, my parents, and just all of the social media support that we've received has just been amazing. And so thank you to everyone, and thank you to you, Dom, as well.
Absolutely. Beth and Jared Maher joining us here in studio for the last 45 minutes, giving us the inside on what went down at Shanley. All right, we'll take our last break. We'll come back. We will wrap up the show. Get you ready. We've got a busy Sports Wednesday on tap. We'll do that when Hot Mike wraps on WDAY Extra right after this. Okay, just taking a deep breath there after that conversation. I appreciate Beth and Jared coming in studio. Hopefully we were able to answer some. I know I've extended an invite to Mark Holcraft to talk. Shanley has let it known that the statement that they put out in mid-April when this went down is pretty much going to be the statement that they're going to go with here. I had a bunch of comments come in and the days that followed it, and we talked about it pretty heavy for that entire week. And I know it might be off people's radars now. It was 6 weeks ago this all went down, but I still think there was relevance to have Beth here to discuss what went down. And again, this all is a pattern that I have covered now for the better part of 8 years with this one specific school. Andrew Burns went through this as the old boys basketball coach. I remember did the story. It was 2019 into 2020. Fresh off a trip to the state tournament. Where does that sound familiar? Parents came into practice demanding he resigned. His entire staff resigned after that. Volleyball has been through 4 coaches over the last 5 years. They just hired another one just a few weeks ago, the same day that Tim Jacobson was hired. And we already talked about the amount that's gone through boys basketball, volleyball. Girls basketball now is on another one. And Tim will do a fine job. He's got a heck of a team he's walking into. It's not Tim's fault, but it's a tough deal. And to me, and I said it the day after it happened, I said it the few days following, the more that this is allowed to happen, it emboldens other parents or other hangers-on, other people of power to think they have said power. Well, that happened there. We can force a change because we don't like what this coach is doing. And if you do not have a firm AD, and I don't blame athletic directors for getting out en masse that I've seen. Not one iota, because they don't want to deal with that, and I don't blame them. But if you don't have a strong boss to say, this is not happening, you deal with the coach. If you don't like what the coach has to say, then unless the coach is being inappropriate, has been vulgar, has been inappropriate is the best way I can use the best adjective, then be quiet. There's a agreement Beth talked about. That's why I asked if there is a agreement or meeting that happens with the parents. It's on the parents to show up for that. You know the time. This is the outline of how I'm going to coach you. And if not, then that's on you for not attending that. You can't be caught blindsided if it was well known before the season, these are my rules to abide by, right? If you want to have a conversation about your child about playing, then this is how you do it. Not go around me and go to the boss and say, after the season especially, when she got glowing marks from her boss about the job she was doing, and then 2 weeks later is then told that she's no longer going to be the coach because a group of two parents were upset. It's just, it's a bad deal, and I know, and Beth said it, she's not the first to have dealt with it. I hope it's the last, particularly at that school, because I'm sick of doing that story with that school. And I have friends there. I have colleagues that I would consider working acquaintances. You know, are we friendly outside of work? Probably not. But if they need to call me, they can. That I hope I don't have to deal with that story again, particularly there. I know there'll be other, and actually there were other. It happened 2 other schools, I think, the next week down in the Twin Cities. Same exact deal. It was carbon copy of what happened here. Happened to 2 other. I think one was a private school in Minneapolis, and another one I think was Wayzata. I want to say it was the same. I read it like this is exactly what happened here. And if you do not have a firm administration on that, then you're toast. You know, Troy Mattern, we went through the story with Troy. Troy has, you name me a more successful high school football coach in the area right now. Oh, wait. Right? And they were ready to move on from him because Shanley won 3 games in 2024. I mean, what are we dealing? We're not dealing with rational people here. And that's the part that is beyond upsetting. You know, I don't blame for, and this is, I hope, and I mentioned this to Beth, for going down the road for younger coaches like Stephen Weber. It's not his fault. I mean, they went to him 3 separate times to take the job, and then they let him go. And you could see on the outside, all right, well, Shanley boys hadn't been very good. Well, the guy's an alum. You begged him to take the job, and then, I mean, what's supposed to happen there? I wish the next head coach all the luck in the world. Again, he's been right there too. He knows full well what he's walking into. Just I hope that it doesn't scare away younger generations from getting into it. We've already seen it affect officiating. It's hard to not affect head coaches, you know, especially strong women coaches to get in. Now we are down to 1 at that level of basketball at the AA level in North Dakota. And that's not to cast a poor light on. There's plenty of men's coaches that do great job coaching on the girls' side. But how many times have we heard other women say when they see women doing the job, they believe they can do it? You know, and that's the part that is disheartening, that there's one less now for no other reason than parents didn't like either how they spoke or how they coached their child. And without being inappropriate, as Beth said, that's why I asked, then it's just really, really disheartening. So I appreciate both of them coming by. That was great. And if you missed it, we'll podcast that. It'll be available at inforum.com shortly later today if you missed any of our conversation with the Mahers. And, you know, I don't blame her for appealing. I understand the principle on that. I would say, if you don't want me, I'm not going to be here. I don't want any part of that. And I can see in her eyes, next basketball season will be really hard, especially having 2 kids go to school there. That would be really, or 3, going to school there. It'd be really, really difficult going forward. We'll see. But I appreciate them coming by. All right, let's do some What to Watch before we get out of here. All right, What to Watch brought to us by our great friends at Northwestern Mutual. Here we go. We mentioned we got Game 1, Knicks Spurs, coming up tonight, WDAY, 7:30, with Inside the NBA pre and post to follow tonight. First 2 games in San Antonio and the next 2 games in New York for games 3 and 4. Twins are coming up, little day baseball, 12:30 on Twins TV as they go for a series sweep of the White Sox after losing 3-4 to Chicago last week. We'll see if they can sweep out the Pale Host today. And we got Game 1 of the Women's College World Series tonight in OKC. Texas Tech and Texas, 7 p.m. on ESPN. All right, thanks to the Mahers for being here, to Drew Trafton as well. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.